What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews, and today you and I are going to jump into outline. We're going to find some bangers on this 3-game slate on the WNBA, and I'm yet to look at anything, so I'm seeing all these lines for the very first time, so hopefully I can find some bangers with you. We're starting things off with the Atlanta Dream versus New York Liberty. Dream, surprisingly, beat the Connecticut Sun on the road in their last game, and the New York Liberty, they lost to the Minnesota Lynx in the Commissioner's Cup final. So been quite some time since the Liberty hit the court. They should be fresh and ready to go. Looking at how these two teams matched up, firstly, in their last 10 meetings, the Liberty have won 8 of those 10 games. Most recently, they won 78-61 early in June. They won by 21 points on June 23. So 2 games, the Liberty have absolutely crushed them. Both of those games were played in Atlanta as well. So can Atlanta get another upset? I doubt it. The Liberty, 14-point favorites in this one. And I hate to say it, I think they cover. So this team, when we're looking at their offenses, well, both of these teams, really, the Dream, they're the worst offensive team in this competition, whereas Liberty, they're number 1. But let's jump into outlier. Let's get the best hit rates. Let's see what we can find for you guys. So for the outlier, bringing up Sabrina, her hit rate over the last 5 has been absolutely amazing. Looking at her points and assists, her PRA, and her points and her rebounds. So pretty much every stat category she's been cleaning up. So let's take a look at just her PRA to start with. So we can see over her last 10 games, she's covered this PRA of 31.5 in 8 of those games, averaging 34.2 PRA. Pretty stretch at the moment where she's shooting the lights out. So a whole lot of points, but she's getting a lot of dimes as well. The key reason for that, though, was a lot of time off with Vandersloot. Even Laney missed quite a bit of time. They're both back in this one. So the best thing to do for Sabrina is to just look at the games when they both play to get a better indication of how she's going to perform. So if we just run things off hit rate alone, probably not going to end well for us. But let's take a look. Games with Laney Hamilton and Vandersloot. So we can see that Sabrina's covered this line in only 3 out of her last 10. So, yeah, I'm a bit cautious with it. She's played with those girls for 10 games this season and only covering this line 3 times, 28.4. So for that very reason alone, I shan't be backing Sabrina on this one because numbers don't look great when those two are in the lineup. Jonquel shooting that 3 ball like a mad woman as of late. The line's at 1.5. She's cashed this in 7 out of her last 10. Has gone under in the last 2. One of those games was the Dream. And most recently in that Commissioner's Cup final against Minnesota, she finished with 0. Looking at her attempts, last 2 games hasn't been attempting much. And it worries me that one of those games was against the Dream. 2 against the Dream. She had 2 in the first outing and then 1 in the one after that. Looking at her last 10 games, I want to check her games more so with Vandersloot in the lineup. And we can see here with Vandersloot in the lineup, Jonquel Jones has only covered this in 3 out of her last 10. But when we take a look at the games without Vandersloot, we can see Jonquel Jones is a banger. 8 out of 9 games without Courtney Vandersloot in the lineup. She's managed to cash this line. So Vandersloot is back in. So taking the over for Jonquel Jones, not something I necessarily want to do. Another play that's popping up is Brianna Stewart, over 3.5 assists. She's cashed this in 6 out of her last 10. The matchup isn't too bad against the Dream. She had 6 assists against them last time. Outliers against this juicy stat. Now, Brianna Stewart has exceeded 4.5 assists in 6 straight games versus bottom 5 defenses for assists allowed. 100% hit rate so far this season when she versus the teams who give up a lot of assists. So 3.5 is like minus 140, but over 4.5 is a plus 135. So what I would like to see is the games with Courtney in the lineup. And we can see here, Brianna Stewart only has 1 game. Let's check this season with Vandersloot. Yeah, so she cashed this in 3 out of her last 10 with Vandersloot in the lineup. So, yeah, real tricky one right here, I got to tell you. So just going on hit rate alone, I don't think it's going to pay the bills in this game. But if we look at the head-to-head stuff, so we've got Brianna Stewart. I didn't check her head-to-head assist numbers. So we can see against the Atlanta Dream, though, she's covered this line in 5 consecutive games, which is pretty cool. Both games this season. I wonder how many of these games Vandersloot played in. Yeah, So 3 of our last 4 games with Vandersloot in the lineup against the Atlanta Dream, Brianna Stewart has gone over 3.5 assists. She's even gone over 4.5 assists, which is a plus money play. That's not a bad look, but looking at her assist numbers with Courtney Vandersloot, it's not too promising, I must say. So, yeah, I'd be a little bit hesitant to bet on that. Let's take a look at Tina Charles here. Her line's at 14.5. She's gone under this in 10 of 16 games this season. Check out this stat from Outlier. Tina Charles has failed to exceed 14.5 points in 4 of her last 5 games versus top 5 defenses for points allowed. She's averaging 12.8 points per game in those outings. The one game she did happen to go over was against this very team they're playing today, the New York Liberty, and she managed to do 19 points in only 21 minutes. So, I don't know. Does that mean an over could be a good look here? It was a home game after all. Let's check her stats on the road. On the road, she's 3 from 7. So, yeah, there's nothing. So, Jones's rebound line's at 9.5. It feels quite high. She's hit the under in 11 of 19 games this season against the Dream. 8 rebounds and 11 rebounds. So, the Dream, not a great rebounding team. So, a lot of rebounds could be available in an offer. So, taking the under for Jonquel Jones there, I'm not overly excited about. I do want to check her points numbers with Vandersloot in the lineup, because we saw a regression in her 3-pointers. Yeah, here we go. So she's played 10 games with Vandersloot, under 16.5 points in 7 out of those games. She's only averaging 12.7 points per game. So I think we could have a good angle here to take the under. It's a brave play, but you got to be brave to bet on the WNBA. I'm just checking badness right now, and I'll share my screen with you so you can see what I see. All right, so this is Jonquel Jones. It gives us her recent form, which is pretty good. This is a free tool, by the way, so feel free to check this one out. But what I want to look at here is how she scores and how well that team defends it. So she scores 20% of her points in the post, the Dream, mid tier when it comes to defending the post. They give up a spot-up shooting, which is where Jonquel Jones scores a lot of points. And they're the worst in the league at defending the pick-and-roll man, which is another place where Jonquel Jones gets her points as well. Looking at the on the floor, they're quite good defending in the paint, but terrible within the restricted area. Jonquel Jones, she gets most of her damage done in the restricted area and above the break. Whereas this mid-tier, when it comes to above the break, they're shocking at defending the corners. So could take the under for Jonquel Jones, but it's definitely a way that I'm leaning. But let's jump back in the outline and see if we can find something more convincing. If I didn't look at Props Madness, I'd be all over this under for Jonquel Jones. But now there's a part of me that says, fuck it, just bet on her anyway. You guys let me know. What do you think of Jonquel Jones in this one? Does the Vandersloot thing add up? Would you take the under? All right, another one which has paid off quite well this season is just taking the under on Brianna Stewart, 19.5 points. The under's cashed in 58% of games this season. Dream, she scored 25 in game 1, 17 in game 2. Looking at her more recent form, she's hit the under in 5 out of her last 10. So there's nothing too convincing going on over here with Brianna Stewart. Fuck, looking at the hit rates, it's not working. We might have to dive in through player by player to see what happens. This is Sabrina. This is just her assist line, 6.5. If we look at the games with Vandersloot. So we saw some deterioration on her overall performance. Yeah, she's only hit the over in this in 3 out of her last 10 games this season with Vandersloot in the lineup. In head-to-head matches with Vandersloot, she's only gone over in 1 out of 3. So I'm thinking, am I going to be brave enough here and take the under on Sabrina Ionescu? These are her games at home, so she's gone over this in only 2 out of her last 6 games at home with Vandersloot in the lineup. So I'm really thinking the under could be on here for Sabrina despite the matchup. What does worry me is that her points. So if you look as of late, her points numbers have been very good, very strong. But keeping in mind, a lot of those games were with Vandersloot out. Been back for a couple of games now. Just one game, and in that game, Sabrina scored 23, but that was the Commissioner's Cup final. She's hit the under in 4 out of her last 10. Even looking at her boards, I wonder if we see the same thing. With Vandersloot in the lineup, Sabrina's rebounding quite well. 6 out of her last 10 games, she's gone over. So I'm really thinking maybe points and assists. This is where she's impacted. Now, she's been cashing this like crazy. 8 games, she's gone over 25.5 points plus assists. and we look at the games with Vandersloot, Sabrina's covered this line in 4 out of her last 10, but she has covered it in 3 out of her last 4 with Vandersloot in the lineup. So, yeah, I don't think I fade her in that. Brianna Stewart, I don't want to fade. Jonquel Jones, I'm still leaning to take the under for her points, to be honest. Actually, a good look could be the rebounds plus this. No, fuck. Sabrina. Sabrina's bloody throwing off all my data. Her recent form's just been that good. I've had my troubles betting with Alicia Gray. I bet her over, she goes under. I bet her under, she goes over. Such is the life. So this season, she's gone over 15.5 in 8 out of 16 games. We're still missing Howard. So let's just look at the games without Ryan Howard. 3 games. Yeah, she's gone over in 2 out of the 3. Last game against the Liberty, no Ryan Howard. I did bet her over in this game. She only finished on 8 points, but the other 2 games against the Fever and the Sun, she managed to go over. Field goals are very high in terms of her shots, but she does get to the free throw line somewhat okay. What's her 3-page line? 1.5. The overs minus 146. The unders a plus money play, but the unders only hit in 44% of games this season. What's her boards look like? 4.5. She's only hit this in 6 of 16 games. She's hit this in 4 out of 6 games against the Liberty, though. 1 out of 2 so far this season. So, yeah, with Alicia Gray, not really feeling that either. Let's do a deeper dive into Tina Charles. So we did look at her points. This is her rebounds. She's hit her rebound line in 7 out of 16 games so far this season, averaging 8.6 rebounds per game. Versus Liberty twice this season, she got 8 and 7 boards. So, man, she could be close, but she may not cash. And then her points line, that's pretty up in the air, 14.5. So I'm thinking, do I just skip this game altogether because I can't find anything of value? Or do I create a bitch-ass parlay and lower some lines a little bit just to get something on? With the WNBA, you can't really do bitch-ass parlays because once you move their lines a little bit, the odds drop off dramatically. You kind of have to play the lines straight. I actually found that having more success betting sides and totals than I have been betting on play up to the W. Not to say that I'm going to stop, but it's just an observation after about 5 weeks. Actually, I've decided. I think I'm going to fade Jonquel Jones in this one. I'm going to take the under 16.5 points. And the key reason here is these are her numbers without Courtney Vandersloot. And what you'll see, 12.2 attempts, 63% from the field, 5 3-pointers. So playing amazingly well without Courtney Vandersloot. When we look at her with Courtney Vandersloot, the numbers change quite dramatically. We see her shot attempts drop to 8.8 and her 3-point attempts down to 3.4. So she's going to need to score 17 points on less than 9 shots, hopefully. And I'm willing to take my chances on this one for Jonquel Jones. Taking the under, all because of Vandersloot. Now, before I submit this bet, I want to quickly double check to make sure Vandersloot's not on some sort of minutes restriction or anything like that. I doubt it, given it was personal issues. But it was all about conditioning for Vandersloot. Well, thank God I checked, because Vandersloot could be on some sort of minutes restriction as she gets her conditioning underway. She only played 12 minutes in that last game in the Commissioner's Cup. So thankfully, I haven't pulled the trigger here. So Vandersloot is, if she's still going to be on some sort of minutes restriction, that means the Sabrina plays are well and truly on. So let's go back to Sabrina. Let's check the PRA. All right. So 5 straight games she's covered this PRA. Vandersloot came back in that last game, but Sabrina getting points, getting rebounds. She was going to work. So I'm going to say fuck it, and I'm going to bet Sabrina to go over her PRA because she's filling it up. The points, rebounds, assists, they all seem to be coming. If I had to break down to one particular one, points at 19.5. It does feel like a good look. She scored 26 against the Dream last time. Prior to that, though, there were some struggles, believe it or not. Assist-wise at 6.5, I don't necessarily love that. She did have 11 assists against the Dream before, and then rebound-wise, she only had 3 rebounds in their last outing against the Dream. Recent form's a little bit all over the place, but when you jump into the PRA, you get a much better hit rate as of late. Whether it be points, rebounds, or assists, Sabrina's been delivering. I'm thinking about taking her over in her PRA. Let's not overthink it. All right, let's jump into the next game. It's the Minnesota Lynx versus the Chicago Sky. Lynx on the road here, traveling to the Windy City. They are the hottest team in the WNBA after winning the Commissioner's Cup. The Sky, they've all been a little bit better. Started the season off quite poorly, but they've been somewhat competitive as of late. The Lynx, as I look at this, they're minus 7.5 point favorites in this game. Sky have a tough couple of days. They just played the Aces. Now they have to roll up against the Lynx. So they're playing up playing against the two best offenses in the W. The problem with the Chicago Sky, pretty gritty. They're okay defensively. They rebound, they hustle, but they don't have the offense that a lot of these top teams do have. So you can't help but roll with the Lynx in this one. But I think the Sky, they put up a good fight. But let's take a look at some of these players. Now, instead of trying to find the best hit rate, I'm just going to go through some of these girls one by one and see if I can find some value that way, because just looking at these hit rates was driving me insane. Let's start with the Minnesota Lynx being on the road. Let's go at Nafisa Collier. Now, if you just want to know about hit rates, the under looks like the best, not the best play, but the more likely play given her hit rates as of late. But we'll go through each and every prop and we'll see what we can come up with. So her points line's at 21.5. She's only hit this in 2 out of her last 5 games, 4 out of her last 10. And in head-to-head matchups, 2 out of her last 3 against the Sky. But this is the first time they're playing each other this season. So having a quick look at Nafisa Collier on Props Madness. And what are the main call-outs that we see here? She pretty much scores from all over the court. She scores the majority of her points with spot-up shooting. Chicago Sky, second best in the league when it comes to defending that type of play type. She does get to the free throws and more than capable of posting up, which is Chicago Sky not the best at defending. Now, in terms of the Sky, they're awful defending in that restricted area, right into the basket, and they're somewhat decent everywhere else. So Collier, if she can get to the rim, then she can get some buckets. But with lines as high as this one, you're better off taking the under every single time, but knowing how unrealistic that is, you've kind of got to pick your spots. So Collier's hit this line in 39% of games this season, 7 out of 18, which is not great. She just scored points in a loss against the Dallas Wings. So she's getting a lot of minutes, she's taking a lot of shots. I just 21.5. It seems a little bit steep. That's all I'm going to say. It seems a bit steep, and I don't know if I can take that. Having a look at her rebounds, we know that she can fill the boards up. 9.5 is the line, 10 out of the last 18. She's cashed in. Head-to-head matchups against the Sky, she's gone under in 3 straight, but these games were last season, so I'm not putting too much stock into that. She hasn't been rebounding all too well as of late. She started off the season rebounding very well, but as of late, not so much. I think Alana Smith getting a lot of boards, even Courtney Williams getting a lot of rebounds as well. So with Nafisa, I'm not overly keen on taking any bets on her. If I had to, I'd probably be leaning towards the under. We do have Courtney Williams, so she's been filling up the stat sheet as of late. Let's go ahead, check her out. So points line at 9.5. She's cashed this in 2 out of her last 5, 4 out of her last 10. And on the season, she's covered in 10 out of her last 18. So her minutes are really inconsistent. She averages 26.6, but she can play as low as 18 and as high as 32. So a lot of that's probably dependent on how the game's going. So people like this, I'm not overly keen on betting on, to be honest. She does score a lot of her points in the mid-range, and the Sky, somewhat decent at defending those types of spots. So I'll probably have to pass on her. I'll pass on all of her props, really. And the main reason are these minutes. They're up and down like a damn yo-yo, so it can be somewhat hard to predict. Someone who does have pretty decent hit rates these days is Alana Smith. So let's quickly check Alana Smith out and see what she'd be doing. Her points line's at 11.5. She's cashed this in 3 out of her last 5, 6 out of her last 10, and on the season, 10 out of 18. So 56% of the time, she's hit the over. Now, Alana Smith does a lot of spot-up shooting above the break and putting some stuff in near the rim, really, showing these scores in 2 different spots. So with Alana Smith, her minutes averaging 27.7, but over her last 5, after this 37-minute outing, it's gone down to the low 20s. So if she's going to get about, let's just say 20 to 25 minutes in this game, let's play around with these filters. Is she going to play 20 to 25 minutes, which she's done in 5 games this season? She's hit the over in 3 out of 5 games. So I wouldn't put it past her to do it, to be honest. she can definitely make it happen. The matchup's not great. It's not bad either. I'll probably lean to the over, but not sure if I want to bet that. Her rebound line's at 5.5. She's cashed this in 8 of 18 games, but 5 out of her last 10, but 4 out of her last 5. A bit of outlier insight. She's exceeded 5.5 rebounds in 5 out of her last 6 games. So that's just recency bias there. Her last 6 games, she'll be rebounding really well. So this correlates with Nafisa Collier going down. Alana Smith rebounds are going up. Another interesting about this play is the matchup. So Angel Reese on the opposite end, strong rebounder, but also not a great scorer, so she'll probably miss a lot of shots. She gets a lot of offensive rebound, but that might mean there's more rebound opportunities to go around for Alana Smith. So I don't hate the look for over on her rebounds. And let's have a quick look at Kayla McBride. The under's been on for her as of late. She hasn't been playing too well. So she's gone under in 4 consecutive games now. 6 out of her last 10, she's gone under. 11 out of 18 games this season, she's gone under in 2 or 3 against the Sky. But her recent form where she's going down, and a lot of that has been shooting struggles. The volume's there. 10.8 attempts is what she averages on the season. And over this 4-game stretch where she's gone under, still taking that many shots. The problem is these 3-point shots aren't falling for her. So if we look at 3-pointers, tough matchup once again. The Sky, they allow the 3rd fewest 3-pointers made this season. So when it comes to Kayla McBride, I'd be happy to probably follow the hot hand here and take the under in her points. Minus 104, under 14.5 points. She's on the road as well. Let's take a look at this. On the road, she's hit the under in 5 out of 8 games. So that's all looking promising. And outlier, letting us know. Last 6 games, she's gone under 5 times. So the only game where she's gone over was against the Dallas Wings, who can't defend anybody. But she's just been struggling from downtown. And the Sky, probably not going to make that her life any easier. So Kayla McBride, I'm looking at the under, so I'll put that down as a lean. I don't mind that. Let me know what you guys think about the Kayla McBride play, if we're going to fade it or not. I want to show you guys what I'm seeing here on Props Madness. So you can see here, Kayla McBride, 70% of her points, they come from above the break. That's a whole lot of bombing going on. And we can see here, 35% of her points come from spot-up shooting. And we can see here that the Chicago Sky are second best in the league when it comes to defending spot-ups. So the only issue here is if Kayla McBride gets in a lot of transition, but hopefully not. And the Sky, you can see here, mid-tier when it comes to defending above the break. But looking at our tools on Outlier, we know that they do limit 3-pointers, which is quite good. So I think this under on Kayla McBride might be a good look. So I've got that down as a lean. Most likely take it. But let's see what else we can find. Let's jump into the Sky now to see if we can find some value. So Angel Reese, I was foolish enough to bet her under in the last game, and it was looking great, and she went crazy towards the end of it. Let's take a look to see points. So firstly, Outlier giving a nice juicy insight. So Angel Reese has exceeded 14.5 points in 4 out of her last 5 games at home, where she's averaging 18.4 points. And you can see it here at home. Angel Reese scoring like a beast, but she does have a difficult matchup. The Minnesota Lynx allow the 2nd fewest points in the league this year, so I'm sure they make it difficult for her. At the same time, I'm looking at Props Madness, and for Angel Reese, 82% of her points come in the restricted area, and the Minnesota Lynx, they're actually really good at defending the 3-point line above the break. They're the best at it. In the paint, still pretty good, but mid-tier. So it's not to say that Angel Reese is a difficult matchup here. But the other thing I'll say about Angel Reese, up against the Aces, who are number 1 in the league at limiting points in the restricted area, Angel Reese still went off for 18 points. So that whole matchup thing, I'm not too worried about it. I know Angel Reese can get it done. I don't want to bet on her at 14.5. I'm just saying I'm not man enough to bet the under. But the one I did want to look at is this rebounds, 11.5, minus 130. 6 out of her last 10. She's exceeded this in 4 out of her last 5 games, averaging 14.4 boards. Only had 11 rebounds against the Aces, but up against a Lynx team that does not rebound well at all. They actually allow the most rebounds in the league. Whilst I'm sharing my screen, I might as well take a look at the opponent averages here on RotoWire. So let me share this with you. So it's actually quite interesting. Taking a look at the rebounds here, we can see the forwards, the Lynx actually are the third fewest rebounds to forwards, but they do allow the most rebounds in the league overall. So I'm just breaking it down by position to see, yeah, so centers, they allow second most rebounds. Now we're looking at the guards, and they allow the second most rebounds to guards as well. So guards and forwards have the rebound advantage, I would say, by the looks of things. Not guards and forwards, guards and centers. My bad. Angel Reese is a forward. But look, I think despite that, I think she can get after it and get a lot of these rebounds anyway. I wouldn't put it past her. I'm just not willing to take that bet right now. Let's have a look at Cardoso. So she's definitely their 5, and maybe she can have that big rebound game. So her line's at 8.5. She had 8 rebounds against the Aces in 30 minutes. She's covered this in 4 out of her last 5. On the season, she's only covered in 4 out of 10, but she was on a minutes restriction. Coming back, she looks like you can expect her to play about 30 minutes a night. And when she gets 30 minutes, if we project it, let's go all games where she's played more than 28 minutes. Let's go down to 27. All right. So these are her games where she's played 27 minutes or more. She's actually covered this rebound line in 4 out of the 5 games, averaging 9.6 boards. Last game against the Aces, she only managed to pull down 8. But that Aces team, monsters offensively. Probably a bit difficult to get rebounds when that team's dropping 95 points on your head. Whereas this Lynx team, probably they're better defensively, but they're not as good offensively as the Aces. So, look, we know that the Lynx give up a lot of rebounds. Thanks to my friends at RotoWire, we know that they give up rebounds to guards and centers and actually limit the forwards on the glass. So Cardoso could be a good look here. I think everybody's going to be looking at Angel Reese and her rebounds. Camila Cardoso to go over her rebounds. Why the hell not? It's got my attention. All right, see if we can find something else. We've got Kennedy Carter. So, man, this has been a lean for mine for so long to take her points line. I keep getting so close to taking it. And it's purely because of these minutes. Check this out. Games where she plays at least 25 minutes. Where's she at? She's averaging 19.5 points. Her line's normally at 15.5. It's now up to 16.5. But the hit rate when she gets this volume of minutes is excellent. But she's up against a Lynx team who is very good defensively. There's no Connecticut Sun in this graph here. So a lot of these teams where she's played a lot of minutes against, not the best teams defensively. Probably out in the Liberty, probably the best defensive team that they've played here. But I'm going to look at Props Madness to see what we can get for Kennedy Carter. So she scores. The good thing here is a Lynx, very good at defending above the break. She doesn't score there anyway. She likes to run, and she likes to get into the paint. But thinking about Lynx, top 2 when it comes to defending the transition. So I would say that the matchup isn't necessarily favorable for Kennedy Carter, but at the same time, they got to get points from somewhere. So, yeah, I'm not willing to bet on that, but I wouldn't be overly surprised if she happens to have a good game. Let's check out Marina Mabrey. So her points line, 15.5 in this game, 3 out of her last 5. Oof, 3 out of her last 10. So checking this out. Outlier doing its thing. Marina Mabrey has failed to exceed 15.5 points in 4 of her last 5 games versus top 5 defenses for points allowed. So these are the top defensive teams that she's come up against this season. She struggled against all of them, apart from this very first game against the Connecticut Sun where she went off. 15.5 up against a tough Minnesota Lynx defense, fresh off a loss. So they should be pretty motivated coming into this one. I'm just checking Madness now to see how does Mabrey score her points. We've got 48% of her points above the break. Let me share this with you. 48% of her points above the break, 22% in the mid-range, and 25% within the paint. Scores a lot on spot up. The Lynx, not too bad at defending that. Pick and roll ball handler. They're pretty mid when it comes to that. Off screens, not a strength of theirs. So the Lynx, very good at stopping transition, not allowing free throws, stopping plays in isolation. Pretty poor at putbacks, but it's not necessarily her thing. So I'd probably lean to the under for this for Mabrey. I haven't had too much. Well, I have had success betting unders. I'm not going to say that, but yeah, her hit rate for the year is pretty ass. 9 out of 16, she's gone to the under. But as of late, in her last 10, she's hit the under in 7 out of her last 10 games. And this is a home game, though. I'll give her that one. Let's look at her last 10 games at home. And she's actually hit in 5 of those 10. So, yeah, there's not enough there for me to want to fade. These are assist numbers, 3.5. It's minus 148 to the over. Has hit in 4 straight, but it's right on 4. And up against a Lynx team that doesn't allow many assists at all. So actually allow the least assists in the league this season. But Mabry more than capable. So I'm not too comfortable in betting the under on that. Her rebounds at 5.5. She's hit in 8 of 16 games. 4 out of her last 10. Checking in her last 10 games at home. 4 out of 10 games there too. So yeah, Mabry I'm going to have to pass on. Yeah, I think for this particular game, I might just ride with the unders on Kayla McBride on her points and the Cordoso rebounds. I don't mind that whatsoever. All right, let's jump in this next and very last game. It's the Fever versus the Mercury. I'm also very conscious of time because these games are early as hell, and I still have to download, upload, get this video out to you guys. So probably no editing going to be used for this one. It's going to be raw as hell. But Mercury versus Fever. Mercury at home. This one, the Fever are 7-12. They're 5th in the East, and the Mercury are 9-8, 4th in the West. So the line for this one is 7.5. Mercury, obvious favorites. Caitlin Clark is playing, so there's an ESPN game. So there's going to be a lot of eyes and attention on this one. I saw an article around the Caitlin Clark's coach saying she got to shoot the ball a lot more, and I instantly thought Caitlin Clark overs immediately. The Mercury do have their own stars. Tarossi, 42 years old. Griner is 33. Kalia Cooper, probably their best player, but defensively, they're not strong. So I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. So the points props is probably where I'm thinking. The Fever should get close, and hopefully they do. So more minutes. Give me that. Let's start with Caitlin Clark, though, because that's where I want to look at. All right. Caitlin Clark aligns at 17.5. She's hit this in only 2 out of her last 5 games, 3 out of her last 10, and only 8 of her last 19. Outlier pulling out that Caitlin Clark. She's failed to exceed 17.5 points in 7 out of her last 8 games on the road. So 88% of her games, 13.8 point average on the road. She's getting a lot of minutes, 33 minutes on average. Attempts are quite poor at 10.9. So she's not shooting the ball very much at all. So hopefully that article about her coach wanting her to shoot the ball more, hopefully Caitlin read that. Thought I'd just jump in and share this with you real quick because I needed to check this article before I put any bets down. It's an ESPN article, and it's all about the Fever coach saying that Caitlin Clark's got to shoot the ball a lot more. So she leads all rookies in scoring and assists, as well as field goals made and attempted, 12.2 attempts per game. Coach has said Caitlin Clark needs to shoot a minimum of 15 shots a game for us. She's got to get her shots, and we've got to do a better job of setting her up, setting some really good screens for her to get her open. So what I'm going to bank on here is that Caitlin Clark shoots 15 shots at least. So let's get into it. So looking at games in 2024, looking at the games where she's attempted 15 or more shots, this is how I'm going to do my hood-ass mathematics. 15 shots in her first game, she scored 20. Then up against the Liberty, 17 shots, she scored 22. Then up against Seattle Storm, she shot 16 shots, scored 21. And then against the Spark, 16 shots, scored 30. And against the Storm again, 17 shots, she scored 20. And then the last time she took 15 shots was against the Washington Mystics, and she scored 30 points. So there's a definite correlation there. When Caitlin Clark shoots the ball 15 times or more, she cashes this line every single time. I even think the 19.5 could be on offer. It's a plus money play. I'm thinking a Caitlin Clark ladder play might be happening here. So hopefully the coach ain't spitting bullshit, because if this doesn't happen and they don't find a way to get her open and she doesn't take her shot, then we're about to get rinsed. But Caitlin Clark over 17.5 points is one of the picks I'm going to take. I'll probably look at laddering her up to 20 or 25, not going to lie. Maybe even up to 30. Let's get wild. And the reason why I say that, it's not just because of what the coach has said. It's also the Mercury. Not the best defensive team at the moment. They leak a whole lot of points. The 4th most points in the league. I'm going to share madness with you all, and I can show you something real cool. So here we have Caitlin Clark. Now she scores 66% of her points above the break. And if you look at the Mercury, they allow the most points above the break. So styles make fights, and it might be a good matchup for you for Caitlin Clark. But if you think about how she scores as a pick and roll ball handler, the Mercury pretty good at defending that. In transition, they're not very good. And for spot up shooting, they're not. Now, Caitlin Clark, not the spot-up shooter within this team. She is the ball handler. Will need to score off screens and such. But I do think she can still do it. If she gets these 15 shots, I think she can go over. Let me know what you guys think. Write it up in the comment section if you're going to ride with Caitlin Clark and I. Probably going to be taking her overs for sure. This is a 3-point line at 2.5, and I definitely bet the over on that. The Mercury, they are the most 3-pointers made in the league, but at minus 180, not something I want to mess around with. It's a plus 142 for her to get 4 3-pointers, but she's only hit that in 5 games this season, so 5 out of 19. So that's a 25% hit rate, and you're only getting plus 142. So the odds not very good for her to make her 3-pointers, but if you're betting on fantasy and stuff, I think the Clark over in 3-pointers is a good look. Her assist line's at 7.5. Mercury, bottom 4 in terms of assists allowed, but Caitlin Clark's only hit 7.5 in 5 out of 19 games. So this line's been elevated purely because of this matchup, I would say. If we look at these outlier stats, what's it calling out? So Caitlin Clark's failed to exceed 7.5 assists in 8 of her last 10 games. So we already knew that. I want to check her games just on the road. And she's only hit this, she's gone over 3 times. So she's gone under 8 times. So they're really elevating this line. Well, not really. The 7.5 is minus 150. So chances are she finishes on 7. She could finish on 8 based off these odds. But the assists I don't necessarily want to play with. This is a rebound, 5.5. She's cashed in 10 out of 19 games. She's exceeded 5.5 4 out of her last 5 games. So her recent form rebounding is good. Mercury do allow a lot of rebounds as well. Caitlin Clark on the road this season, she's covered in 6 out of her last 11. So, yeah, I'm really liking the points. But the PRA could be a good look because her rebounds and assists, she does tend to do it all. But I think for simplicity, I'll probably just take her points, and I might even ladder it up. Might take her for her normal line for 20, 25, maybe 30. Who the hell knows? But I think Caitlin Clark's a good look. Let's take a look at Aaliyah Boston. Her points line's at 13.5. She's cashed this in 3 out of her last 5, 5 out of her last 10, 7 of 19 this season. She's failed to cut this in 15 of her last 19 road games. Let's just check the road this season, though. This season, she's hit the under in 8 of 11 games on the road. The Mercury, they do give up some points, but Aaliyah Boston, we're going up against Brittany Griner in this one. Pretty good matchup if you think about it, and she'll probably lean to the under here. 2 games against the Mercury. These are last season, though. She went under in those games. She's a different type of beast these days. 13.5. Yeah, I'm on the fence about it. Her rebounds, 9.5. 5 out of her last 10. 6 out of 19. So it's more of a recent form where she's been rebounding a lot better. But yeah, I'm not too on that. To be honest, I don't think I'm going to find something for any of these Fever players better than the Caitlin Clark play. I would find something more reliable stats like Kelsey Mitchell, who's consistent as hell. Her line's at 16.5, 7 out of her last 10, 11 out of 19 this season. So she always gets up and around there. Now, Kelsey Mitchell honestly could be someone who benefits playing up against the Mercury. She does score 40% of her points above the break. She does score 23% of her points as a spot-up shooter. And this Mercury team, that's what they suck at. Exactly the way that Kelsey Mitchell plays is exactly what the Mercury are awful at. So I don't know what to do here. This is where I'm a little bit concerned. I feel like the narrative is playing into a Caitlin Clark to go over. ESPN game, coach just said she needs to take 15 shots, and we just looked at it. When she takes 15 shots, she covers her line every single time. If I wasn't aware of that, Kelsey Mitchell is the person that I'd be betting on because her numbers are a lot more consistent. Her play type matches this Mercury defense perfectly, so she's destined to go off. The problem is I've been betting that way for quite some time in this season, and that hasn't necessarily gone my way. So I think I'm still going to go with Caitlin Clark, despite the numbers and the data telling me that Kelsey Mitchell is the better play. I'm going with Caitlin Clark. But what I want you guys to do, let me know in the comment section. Kelsey Mitchell or Caitlin Clark. One of them is going to explode in this game against this Mercury team. I want you to tell me who you think it is. Are you going reliable data or are you going with a narrative for Caitlin Clark? Let me know what you guys think. I'm on Caitlin by the looks of it. All right, let's jump into this Phoenix Mercury so I can get the fuck out of here. Let's start with Copper. Yeah, she's been a little quiet. I feel like She hasn't really gone off since she got announced team, but I don't watch as many games as I'd like to. Her points line at 22.5. She's covered in 7 out of 17 games. She does average 22.7 points per game this season. Up against the Fever, who do allow the most points in the league. So somebody's getting buckets here. And the question is, up against Caitlin Clark, a lot of players been going off. Taking it personally. I'm checking out Clear Copper on Props Madness right now to see what we're dealing with. So she's pretty much from all over the place. Above the break, in the paint, bit of mid-range, and the matchup is nice for her. The matchup is good. I think that's the main thing that Props Madness is calling out here. But Clear Copper, what she's getting, 31.8 minutes, so pretty consistent on the minute side, 18.2 shot attempts per game. Unless she explodes in this, then yeah, probably doesn't go over. Yeah, I'm not really feeling Copper in this one. Her rebounds, that doesn't interest me at all. What about Brittany Griner? I bet on Brittany Griner to score 20 points in her last game, and she finished on 18. The joys. So Brittany Griner, 19.5. She's covered in 2 out of her last 5. She's only played 7 games this season, and she's covered this in 3. She's up against a Fever team who gives up the most points in the league. Brittany Griner does score a lot of her points in the paint, so her matchup is a nice one too. And that's what the challenge is going to be for this Mercury team. If you bet on anyone to score points, all of these girls are going to have a good matchup. But 19.5 feels a little bit steep, I'd say. It feels a little bit too high. I'm mainly saying that because I bet on her for 20 last time. She only got 18, so I'm not riding with Brittany with this one. She can get locked up again for all I care. Rebounds, she's covered this in 4 out of 7 games this season. 7.5 boards is her line. Fever, as bad as they are giving up points, they're not too bad at getting rebounds. So in this one, where's my girl DT? So Tarasi, I did hit her assist prop in that last game, and that might be something I'll go back to depending on where the line is at. So let's check it out. Her points line's at 16.5. She's hit this in 3 out of her last 5 games, 5 out of her last 10. And woo-wee. Diana Taurasi's exceeded 16.5 in 5 straight games versus bottom 5 defenses for points allowed. Thank you, Outlier. So all of these teams on the bottom end when it comes to defense, and DT scored 20 plus in all of those games. So yeah, I think I might let DT as well. Not really. I'll take her for her normal line and sprinkle a little bit on 20 perhaps. But I think that's a good look. And I was waiting for something like this to stand out to me. So yeah, her recent form's not bad. She doesn't have an assist line. That's quite strange. I don't like that. I want to see an assist line because her assists since Brittany Griner's been back have been fantastic. Actually, I just found her assist line 3.5. So the data's not here in Outline, but I did find it on Bet365. Her rebound line, not something I want to muck around with. 3-pointers made, 2.5. I don't want to play with that either. I think the points is the way that I'm going to go, which is quite crazy, right? Check out her points. 8 out of 17 games this season, 16.4. She's covered this in 8 out of 17 games, right? Now, she's played the bottom 5 teams defensively. She's played 5 games against those teams, and she's covered this line in all 5 of them. So that's 5 out of the 8 games where she's gone over, just happen to be against teams who give up a lot of points. So the matchup is juicy. It's beautiful. So it looks like I'm going to ride with DT. I might run a parlay with her and Caitlin Clark to score 20 points each. I hope this Caitlin Clark play doesn't blow up in my face. But DT, I'm liking the points prop. That's my Mercury player. That's who I'm going to go with. I'm going to have some dangerous parlays. No, I'm not going to have anything dangerous. Let's be responsible here, boys. But yeah, all these other girls, overly keen on any of them. But in the interest of time, I need to get this video out to y'all. So sub to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know in the comment section if you ride it with me on Caitlin Clark, or you're going to take Diana Taurasi in this one. I think both girls shine. ESPN game. A lot of eyes are going to be on it. I can't wait for it. But best of luck to you all. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.